I'm Phill Hemming, and born in Iowa, Mason City. Moved to Wisconsin with my folks when I was about 3 years old, and essentially was raised and grew up in Wisconsin, Wisconsin Dells. Moved from there when I graduated from high school to work at American Motors, and older friends of mine were Marines, and they always were teasing me, saying that I couldn't handle it. So I enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1960 and went to Parris Island. I went home and told my parents that I had enlisted in the Marine Corps, and my mother screamed. My father said, "You're crazy." And they accepted it for what it was. Went to Parris Island, wrapped up all my clothes in a brown paper bag, mailed it home. When it got there, it was moldy as if I had been killed. And it was a real shock for my mom. She wasn't quite prepared for that. But then I came home and went to school. They still weren't sure about me staying in the Marine Corps. But at any rate, commissioned orders to Pensacola, finished my flight school. My wife-to-be pinned my wings on, and I headed for California. Checked into 3rd Maw and was going to hold out for Huey's, and they said the Huey's are full, you can't go to Pendleton, you have to stay here at Tustin, and you're going to fly 34s or 34s. And I said, I'll go back out on leave. Well, I ran into a good friend from flight school, Jack Burke, who had just checked in. He was going to a 46 squadron, it was just being reformed, which happened to be 364. At the time, I had no idea of the history of the squadron or what we would later become. So I went over to talk to the wing personnel guy, and they said, I want to fly 46s. And he said, how bad? I said, I'll meet you in the parking lot. And he said, you're on. So that's how I got into 364. Jack Burke and I were the first two guys to check into 364. We had not an airplane yet. Moved over, obviously, to the blimp hangars. The first CO who had the flag in the Bible was a guy by the name of Thompson, a 53 pilot from 303. New pilots came aboard. They were our flight instructors from Pensacola. Red Wiegand, Bull Bland, Lou Gulling, the first CO, while I was in the squadron, came over from the 34 outfit. And we began to form and then train. So when we left, getting ready to go to Vietnam, we were going to put our birds aboard the ship. There were a bunch of us that went on the advance party. But backing up a little bit, the squadron did a lot of really good things as far as building teamwork and camaraderie. We had beer drinking contests with the 34 guys all the time at the club. One incident in particular stands out. We had a big party and everybody was roaring drunk, and we did some damage to the club to the tune of about $1,500. Saturday morning, each of us got a personal call from Lou Gulling, who said, be in the ready room with $50 in 1 hour. And we all showed up, a little disheveled, collected all the money, and he said, go home. And that was the end of it. We took in 32 or 34 brand new airplanes. In today's terms, that's just not heard of. We didn't have enough pilots to fly all the airplanes. And then we started to parcel them out to other squadrons. And then, of course, we lost a number of birds. Fortunately, 364 of the nucleus, and we parceled folks out when we got into the country to other squadrons, so the whole squadron would rotate at one time. But interestingly enough, of that group that stayed, we only lost 2 pilots killed. Lenny Demko and Jack Burke during Tet. And then we were in the thick of it. Way City, and obviously then on to Quezon, which is probably the thing that is most memorable of all that, because we flew for about 60, well, it was actually 54 straight days. Not every day, but we had some struggles to start with. Before the super gaggle came into being, we were flying individual lifts, 2 planes, and we tried, as things heated up, we were going in a trail and everybody was stacked up, which proved not to be the smartest thing we'd ever done because we were getting shot up pretty good. No birds lost up there. No, the only guy that got wounded was me, and I had a little shrapnel on the leg, and in my hand as 12.7 came through the bullet bouncers we had down, tore out all the rudder pedals. Actually, I thought I had been, my foot had been blown off. I looked down, saw the hydraulic fluid, and said, oh, I don't want to look at that anymore. And also had a big chunk of shrapnel sticking out of my holster. So I wasn't sure if I'd been shot in the balls or if I'd lost my foot. And as it turned out, it was not a big deal. We continued on into the hill, dropped our load, and then flew on to Quang Tree. And Lou Gulling came and met me at the airplane. He was earlier in the flight and of course knew we'd been hit. Interestingly enough, I said, well, I guess I'll bum a ride home with somebody. And he looked me right in the eye and he said, no, Phil, he said, you're taking my airplane and going back after lunch. And that's the kind of leadership that we really need. He knew that I was a little concerned, but he said, I'm going to put him right back on that horse and send him back up to the hills. And that was dynamite. A lot of folks didn't much care for Lou, but he got more out of a conglomeration of new guys and old guys, I think, than anybody that before or after. Just a great guy. Caisson was pretty interesting for all of us as we moved people around and supported the grunts up on 881, 861, 950. A lot of humorous things happened there. People dropping externals or bouncing them off the top of 950 and giving the Gomers sea rats and utilities and stuff, if they could get to them anyway up the side of the hill. And we flew a lot of natives from the coffee plantation back down to Camlo in a resettlement kind of a thing just to get them out of there. And strange things happened. Cousin Weak Eyes and I were making an approach to pick a bunch of mountain guards up, and the director, I was high and fast, and way too fast, and had to take it around. And as we were starting around and we're around, hit right on the guy that was directing us. He just disappeared. And you wonder sometimes, could have been us. Could have been us right there. A lot of that happened, but my experiences are not any different than any of the rest of the guys because we're all doing individual things. And then getting back to the gaggle, there's a lot of discussion about the genesis of how that came about. Some people say it was generated at the wing headquarters. I submit that's a load of crap. That happened in the command bunker at Quang Tree with the guys from the various squadrons there, Gulling, the more senior hacks that had been around for a while. 3 of us made hack just as we started the super gaggle, Gary Monk, Trev Snarles, and myself. We were the newest hacks in the squadron. And then you flew Ass-End Charlie on the flights. You were number 4 in a division, or you were number 8 in the whole gaggle. And we changed then to doing it kind of in an echelon turn. We came in and you went in 4 at a time. Now the wing did add some things. They wanted us to have some fire support, so they brought A4s in, and that didn't last very long. The weather was such that they could never get in on a regular basis. Then some bright spark said, well, we'll put gas out there and it'll keep the NVA down. Well, gas in a helicopter with no windows and trying to fly, looking through little itty bitty holes in your gas mask does not work. That lasted about 1 shot. And we said, we're not doing that. Then as Ass-End Charlie, you had to come around after everybody had dumped their loads, come around and pick up the slings. Then as you approached where the slings were, and there's a special area for it, you could see an arm sticking up. So you came in as low as you could get so you didn't expose him anymore to the fire, and he's clamping it on, you're getting out of Dodge. On the approach, if you were in the back, you could see mortar rounds going off under our birds. Now they had to get there somehow, and they came right through the rotor blades. We never lost an airplane. Just phenomenal. 262 lost a lot of birds up there early on. And I think part of that was just getting used, not panicking, just do your job and march on, do your stuff. So the gaggle went on. That in itself was a tremendous experience. Lou Gulling, another little leadership lesson, I think. We'd gone IFR coming out of Fubai, inadvertent, trying to sneak up there to get up to Quang Tree to brief in the command bunker, then go over to Don Ha and pick up our external loads. Anyway, there were 8 airplanes in all different directions, different altitudes, all talking to one another, saying, I'm at such and such a heading, such an altitude, so am I. And you could hear the panic in the voices. Well, we all ultimately got back to Fubai, landed, walked in the ready room. Lou said, damn, that was exciting. And he said, meet you on channel 1 in 10 minutes. And so out we went. Even the old guys who were bitching were still not half-stepping on the way to the airplane. Went out, got back up there, did our business. We'd brief in the command bunker at Quang Tree, go back out, crank up, and go across the road to the LSA at Don Ha. Now, we took 46 Ds into country, so we can carry 5,000-pound external load. The A's that were in country could carry maybe 2,000. I know when we first started to fly with them, they said, well, we'll go in and pick up those 2 loads, a total of about 4,000 or so pounds. And I think I was flying with R.C. Moore. He said, oh, bullshit, we'll pick it up. You stay up here. We'll take 1 bird in the zone instead of 2. The A guys just couldn't quite grasp that the D was that good an airplane. And on a really good day, you could almost get 6,000. Good airplane. Never, a couple of interesting moments up along the DMZ. I took a flight of, actually started with 16 airplanes, 8 of ours and 8 others tacked onto us. And at the end of the day, Curly Moore and I were the only 2 airplanes flying. We'd been shot up. Rocky Darter from 262 had, we were pulling an infantry battalion off the line. And we were coming in to pick him up, and I was way back in the line. There were 4 46s in front of me, started taking incoming, and I saw 1 bird start to wind down. And as soon as the first 2 rounds hit, I picked up and made a turn and said, I'll come back around, we'll pick up the crews. And the crew chief said, we got a full load, boss. So I came around anyway, saying we can always get 5 or 6 more guys in here, it's not a big deal. Rolled back out, and Rocky came right alongside of me, probably 50 yards away, and Rocky was a good friend, and his airplane just exploded. Big ball of fire. Cockpit and the forward pylon just tumbled through the air, the ass end just was gone. And my heart was right here, because I knew who it was, because he came around and he said, I got him. Yeah, and so we pulled out. We made a couple other lifts in there. We heard that he'd been killed. And you put that aside. You can't, you gotta keep flying, you gotta keep doing what you're doing. But that really got to me, because one, we were friends from flight school. He was in 364 before he was transferred up to 262. And you just get over that. Later on, when I was flying E6s, I lost a wingman up at 950, bombing some guys. That hurt. You don't like to lose a wingman. Flying helicopters, nobody ever got wounded in my airplane but me. And I felt like the crew was my responsibility. Mission, obviously, the old saw, and it becomes more and more of that as you go on and do other things in life. And the same thing in flying fixed wing, there's no difference there. and you fight your fear, you march through it. If you don't have faith, I don't think you have anything. We don't talk about our faith enough. But you see guys praying in the corner. In those days, it wasn't manly to pray together. We've come a long way, but I submit that everybody I know prayed a lot. And you ask for help. Give me strength, courage to do what I have to do. Some guys just didn't make it. And I would submit that we probably feel a little guilty. Every one of us. But you march on, you remember them, you remember the good times, not the bad times. I can't remember a bad time, really. Do what you gotta do. And thank God. If we back up a little bit. When I went into the country, I was like every other lieutenant pilot or every other PFC. I had something to prove. Quite frankly, I didn't address politics. It was me against the other guys and me against what I had to do. Later on, when I got home, I happened to be in DC. I had flown up to visit the Monitor at the Mecca of the Marine Corps. And I, later becoming one, I know now that it was a little different, but I was a shaved head out among them, and they were not angry at me. They were angry at the politics of the war. What were we doing there? What was the purpose of all of this? And I listened very carefully to them. And these are all young people, my age, younger. And they weren't just out there for fun. They were serious about their thoughts. So I carried away with that. And then later on, going back into country, my personal feelings were that we probably shouldn't be there. And I had some long discussions with myself about what I was going to do. Was I going to keep doing this, or was I going to make my stand? And then the war was over all of a sudden. And it's get on with what you got to do, and just you pray for courage and strength to walk the path before you. And you don't want to ever let any of your friends and your mates down. You just don't. And they're not all your best friends, but that doesn't make any difference. We're all in this together, and we all came away, I think, better men. A lot left. Some of us stayed, but you carry something away that you can't get anywhere else. You can't find what we found in any other job. You're not the same. Yeah, you're not the same. Never be the same again. But it's not a bad thing, I don't think. You look at things a little harsher. Don't whine and snivel. Get on with it. And we all piss and moan. That's part of life. But seriously, at the end of the day, you better be ready to move on, or nobody wants to be around you.